Welcome everyone to the Huntsman Leadership Forum. I'm excited to be with you. My name is Lynne and I coach future leaders here at USU, both in the classroom and in advising roles. I am privileged to be the advisor to the Women in Business Association, better known as WIBA, here on campus. And I'm excited to be your moderator for today's panel on True Grit. So let's first begin by introducing our amazing panelists. I'll start with Michelle Smith, who is the Senior Vice President of People and Culture for the Utah Jazz and Larry H. Miller Sports and Entertainment. Utah Business recognized Michelle as one of the 30 women to watch in 2020. And she is the type of leader we'd all like to work for, as she values hard work, compassion, and commitment to people and organizational success. Michelle is also a fellow Aggie who graduated in marketing. She is in the business of relationships, and we're looking forward to learning more from her experience. Welcome, Michelle. All right, we'll also introduce Paula Rosson, who is the Chief Administration Officer and Senior Vice President of the Gathering and Processing Business Unit of MPLX and MPC. She works in the business of energy that includes over 25 years of progressive management experience. Paula is also an Aggie and graduated with a bachelor's and master's of accounting. We are thrilled to welcome her to this conversation.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you. And then we also have Margo Cowley, who is the co-owner of SPM Commercial Property Management and owner of Margo's Interiors. Margo is in the business of opportunities. She has worked for retail, a title company, modeling, and building. She even started her own interior design company. According to Margo's bio, she has a lot of energy and doesn't need much sleep. Thank you for joining our panel this morning.
Thank you.
And finally, we have a fellow student here, Ashley Morrey, who is the SHRM student president at USU. That stands for the Society for Human Resource Management. And Ashley was recently featured in the Huntsman Business Magazine and is a Huntsman scholar. Her role as a mother, a student, and leader extraordinaire sets her on a path full of potential. In the article, she says, "I have realized that my potential is only restrained by the constraints I put on it." Thank you for being part of this panel, Ashley.
Thank you.
All right. So our panel is all about true grit. And really, I'm interested in what each of you consider to be grit and what it takes to be gritty in this 21st century. And so we'll begin with each of you taking about 5 minutes to talk about your own story and your experience with grit. And we'll start with Michelle.
That's great. Thank you so much, Leanne. And thank you to the Utah State WIBA Association. I love that. I wish that that was something and a tool and resource I had when I was there, but I'm thrilled that it exists now. And thank you also to the Huntsman School of Business. This is an incredible opportunity, and I'm very grateful to share and learn. So to start, and as I share, I think I'd like to maybe go into what I see as resiliency and grit, the difference between the two, as I've kind of come to know over the years. So resiliency, and it's very important to know that it's not something you're either born with or not. It's a skill. It's a skill that you develop through lived experiences, through the culmination of many different moments in life that challenge you, that grow you, that inspire you. And so resiliency is that trait or ability to bounce back, in my mind, right? Those could be things like a move to a different school, maybe not getting the grade you wanted on a test or a project, ending of a friendship or a relationship, not getting a promotion, maybe even losing a job. Those are things you could bounce back from. Grit is the ability to bounce back long-term, no matter the stumbling blocks that come along the way, being able to continue to thrive and push forward through them. So these could be things like earning your college degree. That takes grit and perseverance, right? maybe dealing with a health issue or starting a new career, maybe the ending of a relationship or the start of a relationship. Raising children, I would say, takes great grit. The other part that I would also acknowledge is sometimes it's a loss of purpose or identity that could come into your moments of lived experience. And that's where I'll quickly share my story. 1999, and I will have to say I had to call my mom. So when you have moments of thinking, I didn't have any grit, I've never done that. What did I share? Call your mom, she'll be able to tell you. My mom reminded me, it actually is 1995. It was right before my first year at Utah State. I had just graduated from high school. My identity through high school was being a cheerleader. I cheered through high school, and I was really excited to go try out for Linda Zimmerman, who I know is still at Utah State. And our paths end up crossing later in life, but I was really excited. I had done extra coaching. I was ready to stunt with a partner. I had done all of the preparation, and this was who I was, right? And I went to try out, and I didn't make it. I was going to Utah State from Colorado. I didn't have any friends coming with me. I had no family in Utah. This was going to be how I was going to thrive at Utah State. I was going to be a student, and I was going to cheer. And so I remember sitting in the Spectrum after tryouts and knowing that I didn't make it and waiting for my parents, because this was 1995, we didn't have cell phones. I had to sit and wait for my parents to come and grab me and thinking, okay, what am I going to do now? How am I going to bounce back? I'm still going to stay strong. I'm still going to go to Utah State, even though this isn't going to be my purpose and identity. And although that is such a simple story and maybe even a little trivial to me now, it really inspired the building and blossoming of grit. And little did I know later that my identity would be found because I wasn't cheering. That the summer before my junior year of college, I decided I wanted an internship. I knew now that I was going to get a marketing degree and it was time to get some experience. So I went to the College of Business that had a list on the wall of internships you could look at. And one of them was with the athletic department at Utah State. Long story short, I go to apply. The gentleman hiring happens, just as lovely as the universe somehow works, to be a neighbor that grew up with me in Colorado. I mean, the odds of that. So needless to say, I got the job. I got the internship. My commitment to the core value that my parents taught me at a very young age of hard work led me to receiving a scholarship from the athletic department for 2 years in there, doing marketing and promotions. And now look where I am 20 years later, still in the sports industry, and be able to fortunately gain a ton of experience in all different areas. And so to me, true grit is something that we can continue to cultivate throughout our entire lives. And I'm very grateful for the experiences that come along the way to get us there.
Thank
So
you,
thank
Michelle.
you, Leanne.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's hear from Paula.
Great, thanks. And thank you for the invite. And it's very strange still to me how many months we've been doing the Zoom thing, and I still don't like the idea of looking at this little tiny thing. But anyway, so hi, everyone. I like the definition that you actually sent out to us on the grit, and I'm just going to read just the first part. To have grit means you have courage and show the strength of your character. A person with true grit has passion and perseverance. And throughout my career, I'm always a passionate person and kind of out there, probably a little bit too much. But throughout my career, there's been a couple times where I've had to really persevere. And when I've been at this company, Marathon Petroleum Corporation, now for 14 years. And about 3.5 years ago, I was the chief accounting officer of MPLX. And I had a big event happen in my life where I lost my father. And it was really the first big loss that I'd had, right? And I was going through a lot of emotions. Quarter end closes, and then they tell me that they're moving my job to Findlay, Ohio, which I don't know if you've heard of Findlay, Ohio. I hadn't until Marathon. 45 minutes south of Toledo. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, 2 hours south of Detroit, 2 hours away from Columbus. Anyway, And so I was sitting there going, oh my gosh, I've just had this big event happen in my life. I've always wanted to continue to move up my career. This is the signal they were trying to tell me is we want you to move to Findlay because we see a potential in you. We want you to move up. And I had to spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, where is it that I want to go? And is this what I really want anymore? And having a big life event where you lose your father, that just makes you look at things differently. So I actually spent some time thinking about it, journaling, that kind of stuff. And they were trying to pressure me. They really wanted me to make a decision very, very quickly. And I just was putting my foot down. I'm like, guys, I need more time. My husband hasn't even been to Findlay, Ohio. Maybe we should go and see it. And ended up, I sat back and said, you know what? I don't want to move up anymore. And this is getting to me, this pressure of this job. So I'm okay being lateral. So how can I make this a win-win? I mean, I love the company. I love the people I worked with. I really enjoyed mentoring and was, thinking about missing that opportunity. And so I proposed a new role. I created a job for myself and suggested, here's what it is that I would like to do. Here's where I think I could add value. And I would like to stay in Denver, where my support group was to help me get through the loss. And they were so happy that I was going to stay and that they weren't going to lose me, that they actually added to that job description. And I'm the right-hand person to the president of our business unit. And I've had a blast the last 3 years doing a really awesome job, but it took the courage and to actually lay out something that was a win-win and not think of it as a loss of having my job moved. So anyway, that's my story.
That is wonderful, Paula. I love win-wins. That's creative and courageous. So thank you.
Yeah.
Margo, can you share with us?
Yes, thank you for having me. Unlike Paula, I am really glad that it is on a little screen because I'm not a public speaker and that actually terrifies me. And I love how articulate Michelle is because she said so many things I hadn't even really considered to say. When Holly talked to me about this, all I could think is grit. Do I have grit? Why does she think I have grit? And so I sat and thought about it, and an incident came to me, a neighbor who said to me, she was talking about difficult things, and I said, oh, gosh, you're getting through so many hard things. And I said, I've never been through anything hard like that. She said, are you kidding me? Have you not looked at the things in your life? Do you not realize those things are hard? So that's where I went back to. And I think that we find that in life, all of us have some kind of grit and have to go back and decide what they are. So I kind of have a series of events where each piece was a piece of grit that added onto my sand pile. So I married in '82 while I was still at Utah State. That in itself is difficult. Graduated in 1983, and I wanted to pursue interior design, which had not been offered at the time I started. And so I graduated in that and went to work for a design company in Salt Lake for free because I wanted to learn the nuts and bolts of it, not just the academia of it. So I went to work for them for a while and found that they were not doing the accounting part of it at a place I would be comfortable putting my name. So I quit and I started my own business. I set up the forms, I set up an account, I got my sales tax license agreement, all the things you need to start a business, and started out on my own. I was 22 years old. I had a baby 4 years later, 1986. Having your own career and having a baby, all of you that have done this know that it isn't easy. I built my first home I built my first home. I was the contractor while I was pregnant. My mother died in 1989. And my dad asked me at that point to come back and work for our family business as the field manager, which was did I say 1988, I had a baby. 1989, my mother died, and my dad asked me to come back to work. So I had 2 little children. I really didn't want to put in daycare, trying to figure out how to be a mother, because a mother was the first priority to me. I know we're talking about work, but motherhood was the most important thing, mother and wife and daughter. My dad was trying to get through losing my mother. So all of these things, I guess, were kind of gritty. In 1988 to 99, I built our second home. And my father asked me at that point if I wanted to start doing real estate development, which I did. He said, "You look like you really enjoy it." And I said, "Yeah, I really do." So all the while that we're doing this, my family is really my first priority. I was on the Parents Advisory Board at Waterford School. I helped in my kids' classrooms every week. I got very good at scheduling, prioritizing, and burning the candle at both ends. One of the things that I think led to a lot of it is my mom and dad always set things as, "Of course you can do this. Of course you can do this." And I believed them. One of the things that Paula didn't finish some of the things on it. She talks about the perseverance. It says goals are set and followed through, was the next line on the definition. And goal setting has always been something we did in our family, and you are expected to follow through. A person who works really hard to follow through on commitments has true grit. So I guess that would be probably where I find my most grit, is it's very important to me to follow through on my commitments. Thank you.
Margo, that is wonderful. And I know that those piles of sand are probably now a sand castle. I'm sure it's beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing. Ashley, can you share your experience with grit?
Yeah. So I remember one warm summer evening helping my husband build a castle fort for our children and watching them play in the grass around us. I remember breathing in the warm summer air and thinking, life doesn't get any better than this. This is perfect. We had finally made it. We had gotten through medical school and residency, and we had sacrificed and worked hard, and we had finally made it. We were beginning to live our happily ever after. And then a couple of weeks later, there was a frantic phone 911 call. A quick trip in the ambulance, and tears in the eyes of my husband's colleagues as they told me that he was gone. My world shattered that day. I lost my best friend. Our future was gone that we had planned together. And even how I defined myself as a stay-at-home mom and supportive wife was gone. It wasn't long after this that I did a little self-assessment. And I realized that I was a single mom with some college and virtually no work experience. But I knew how to succeed. I had helped my husband through medical school and through residency, which is not easy. I understood the hard work, the sacrifices, and the dedication that it takes to succeed. I helped him, and I was going to help myself. Now, one of the things that I knew about myself is that I would not be satisfied with life if I was just trying to get by. For me, I had to feel like I was living a life worth living to be happy. And so I had to define that for myself. I had to redefine that. What does happiness look like? What does a future that I'm excited about look like? And for me at that time, I defined it as a meaningful career, like where I could comfortably support my children. Well, I looked at where I wanted to be a successful career woman, like all of these beautiful women on this panel, and where I was, some college and virtually no work experience. And I started planning because I was going to get there. Well, the first thing that I knew that I could do was get an education. So I applied to Utah State and applied to the Huntsman School of Business. I transferred my credits. I applied to every scholarship I could possibly apply to. And I had a very important conversation with my children about what it would mean for mom to go back to school. And that this was not just for me, but this was a team effort, that this was going to be a sacrifice that our entire family was making for our future. Well, I got into school and I realized that I had to do more than just ace my classes in order to reach that goal of mine. I needed leadership experience. I needed work experience. And so I became the VP of events for the SHRM Club. And I was able to secure a summer internship with a $2 billion e-commerce and manufacturing company. And just as I thought I had everything figured out, COVID hit. And I was teaching my children full-time while trying to also get all of my work done. But COVID couldn't cloud the vision I had for my future. I knew what I wanted. It just meant that I had to be a little bit more creative. I was asked to be the president of the SHRM Club this year. And instead of looking at all the obstacles in our way, I thought, what are the possibilities? There are so many opportunities now open to us. And as the president, I've been able to expand the scope and our reach to make this year a successful year for our club. Now, I'm only at the beginning of my journey. I'm still laying the foundation for that future that I want to have. And in order to do that, there's not a day that goes by that I don't do something that scares me, that I don't think I'm worthy of doing, that I don't think I'm smart enough to do, where I think somebody else is smarter and better and more capable than I am, but I do it anyway, because I want to be able to go back to my children and tell them that they can reach for their dreams because mom's doing it.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story. Truly inspiring. I have the privilege of being Ashley's mentor in the Huntsman Scholar Program, and I can tell you with certainty that she is paving a really amazing journey for herself. So let's focus on a little bit of the difficulties that we might have when facing criticism. We know that criticism exists, especially in the workplace. And it seems like in this new digital, new media age, there's even more of it. And so I'm hoping that our panelists can share with us strategies that they use to work with criticism. And we'll start with Michelle.
Okay, thank you, Leanne. Thank you all for sharing and being, as you mentioned, courageous. I would say that you were courageously vulnerable too, so thank you. So criticism is so unique, right? Because it is the birthplace of how we can continue to develop. I've learned you get bits and pieces from the different leaders that you're fortunate to work with in your career, or even just really the different individuals that come into your journey, both professionally and personally. And while I've been with the Jazz, I've been able to work with some incredible leaders and our now CEO of LHM, a group of companies. One thing that he came in to the organization at the Jazz and immediately started helping us all understand was to trust intent of people. And I've really been able over the last several years to take a step back, because I think as a female, I'm always even more sensitive. Right? I'm even more sensitive to the feedback that's given around me, because I have such a desire, as women, we have such a desire to be the best we can be, right? That's why we usually don't apply for jobs until we think we've checked off 100% of what the criteria is, where the guys are like, I've got 20, I'm good. I can totally do this, right? And so to be able to step back, take a deep breath and think, trust intent of what is being shared with me. Take the pieces, identify where it is there's opportunity to learn and grow. And at the same time, don't lose my voice. If there's criticism that's being shared to me that may be misunderstood, I need to find that courage in my voice to be able to share with them what my intention was as well. And so that's what I would leave with you all, is to trust intent, to take a step back, take a deep breath, and trust intent first. Go through that lens or walk through that door first.
That's great. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. Paula, do you want to share with us sort of your thoughts in this criticism-filled world that we live in?
Yeah, I have to admit that it's still, after 30 years, when I get criticism, I have to still remind myself to take a deep breath. This is not my mother yelling at me. Yeah, it's hard. And I love your suggestions, Michelle. Love those. There are times though when you'll get criticism where they're not trying to make you feel safe. So I think about yourself giving criticism to others. When I think one of the keys is to make it be positive as much as you can while giving the criticism and explaining how it's going to help their career in the long run. So I had a boss who delivered like a super hard message, hard message. And I had some things I had to just change how I was interacting with people. And it was pretty early in my career. And what he did great was that it made me feel safe, because he talked about all my strengths and how he could see that if I could fix this, what I could do, what I could be. And so he helped me open my ears and listen. But I still had to tell myself, take a deep breath. And I remember that day because I was going on a work trip. Now, why he chose to tell me right before I was going on a work trip, I don't know. But I left my computer at the office. Now, that was before you could just pick up another computer at the place you were going to and be able to keep working, right? That was, I'd have it overnighted, and I was just so distracted by the thing. But when I actually sat down and thought about what he was saying and what he was asking me to do and how he was asking me to change, and I did those things, it really still helps me today in my career. So I think you'll find that not just intent, but most people really, they're sharing those things with you because they do care and they want you to improve and be better. So.
Thank you, Paula. That actually really helps answer one of our viewers' questions. That was from Rihanna. She was asking how to take that criticism from your managers, your higher ups. Like, how do you embrace that without being too self-critical? So thank you for sharing those strategies. Margo, do you want to share with us sort of your thoughts on how to deal with criticism?
Sure. I liked the idea of both giving and receiving, because they are different. They can be very different. Trust intent, that from the time I was a kid, that was always taught to us. Well, why do you think they're trying to destroy you? What is the reason why they're giving you that information? And yes, Paula, they really are trying to help you in most instances. So I love that one. So I think I try to understand what's been criticized or given to me, and not necessarily take it as criticism as much as advice. I deal with what they give to me. I don't tend to get my feelings hurt very easily, probably because I'm looking at what that intent is. It also depends on how it's given. I try to remind myself that everyone has a bad day. So it could be that they're having a lousy day. My dad used to say, I'm mad at the world and you just happen to be in it. And that would help me to go, you know what? A lot of people, they have bad days and I just happen to be in it, and maybe they just need to take it out on me. One of the things I think in giving criticism, my family teases me that I'm a spin doctor, but I think my mother always taught us to allow who you're talking to save face. That you aren't trying to destroy someone, you're trying to help them understand what's good about them, like Paula was saying, and just look for what needs to have a correction.
That's great. Thank you so much. I feel like that I'm learning so much because of course we're always receiving input, and I like that idea of changing that to advice and how we can slowly improve. So I appreciate that. Ashley, do you want to share your thoughts on this topic of criticism?
Yeah. Now for me, I've had criticism that you can tell they just have my best interests at heart. And then I've had criticism where, no, they're just angry and they're trying to lash out. But however criticism comes, I think that it's important to look at it and evaluate it and reflect on what your goals and your purposes are and your values and see if they're aligned. And if that criticism is pointing out a misalignment, then it's important to take that into consideration before you move forward. And if that criticism doesn't apply, that it's not showing a misalignment between your values and your goals, then it's something that you can set aside and you can move forward with confidence in either case.
Thanks, Ashley. I'm going to follow up with a question for you, Ashley, and ask you, how do you stay motivated? This is actually from Tabitha Brady, who's watching us right now, and she's wondering, how does Ashley stay motivated, amidst everything that's happening from a student perspective with COVID and your many responsibilities? So if you'll share with us.
Yeah. So my primary motivation is I've got to take care of my kids. I am the breadwinner for our family. And if I'm not doing it, then it's not happening. So that's my primary motivation. However, after going to school and having opportunities to work, I'm also now motivated to make a difference, to have a positive impact with the people around me and to build people up. And that motivates me. That vision for my future, to be the ability to take care of my children and to be a positive influence for others. That's what motivates me.
Thank you for sharing. Paula, do you want to share with us what motivates you and how that keeps you moving forward?
Yeah, there's some similarities to what Ashley said, but I just look back at every day or every week and check in with myself. Did I make a difference? Did I make a difference to an individual person? Did I make a difference to help grow the company? And to me, it's just about what gets me excited, just going to work every day, is that I know I'm going to make a difference. So it used to be about making more money. It used to be about moving up. I think as my career matured and I matured, yeah, it's just about making a difference now.
That's wonderful. And it's good to hear that our motivations can change, with time. And as we become more secure and stable, we can kind of shift around. So thank you. Margo, how about you? What motivates you and what keeps you moving forward? You've had such a varied career. You've had lots of different paths you've taken. So please share with us.
Well, I'm looking at my notes that I made so that I would be prepared. I tend to be positive and optimistic, which really helps. I mean, in any situation, I think. I don't procrastinate, and I don't like to leave things undone. So I'm a finisher, and I've always had a lot to do, as I mentioned before. So I couldn't get behind. So that was a lot of my motivator. I can't get behind. I have to stay on top of it, or I'd be in real big trouble. I had to make sure that I was providing for my family, because for a while I was the breadwinner. And the other thing is I really never advertised. And so it was really important to me to have happy customers and family, because if they weren't, I wasn't succeeding. And that was a motivator to make sure that they were happy and I was happy. Win-win.
I love that. And I feel like right now that's really relevant advice. Don't procrastinate, students. That is, man, if that can be part of your value set, I feel like that is a win-win for sure. Michelle, would you share with us some of your motivations and ways that you've persevered?
Yeah, I really appreciate you all identifying that life changes, right? Life is a journey. It evolves, it pivots, it has ups and downs. So your drivers, your non-negotiables change a lot. So a few years ago, I was at an NBA women's conference, and Cint Marshall, the CEO of the Dallas Mavericks, spoke. And she had a long career in communications, in leadership and executive roles, and was a mother and a wife as well. And she said something that just struck me, and I have really enjoyed sharing it with others. So I hope you appreciate this analogy. She said, life has a ton of balls, right? We have rubber balls and we have crystal balls. Our rubber balls are in life, and if we know what they are and we identify what they are, those are the balls that sometimes we can let go and they'll bounce, right? And they'll just keep bouncing and they still exist and they're good. But we also have crystal balls. Those are those non-negotiables. Those are those really important drivers that if they drop, they're destroyed. And so I think it's really important to take time to ponder, to understand what are the priorities in my life right now? And what are those priorities at home or with my family or friends, right? But what are the priorities that continue to evolve, especially in business now? It is evolving so quickly with the use of technology and everyone's desire and motivation to continue to excel. So taking a step back, finding time to ponder and look at all of the different areas of your life and understand what are those non-negotiables, what are those drivers, what are those rubber balls, and what are those crystal balls. And that helps keep me motivated. That helps keep me aligned and on the path that is important to me.
What a great analogy, Michelle. I'm going to remember that and use that in my own life. I certainly love the rubber balls versus the crystal balls. Thank you. Another question I'll bounce back to you, Michelle, actually has to do with sort of imposter syndrome that many of our students and our female students feel like they're not qualified for opportunities. And I'm interested in if there was a time in your life when you had a job or a role that you felt like you weren't fully capable of and maybe you were scared to do. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Well, I think I probably feel, if I'm completely honest and vulnerable with you guys, I'm probably feel inadequate in every role that I take on, right? In any part of my life, I feel completely inadequate. Brene Brown, which you probably all know, she's an incredible researcher, right? You're all nodding your head. So one thing that she always says is that the secret sauce to vulnerability is gratitude. And so I find myself kind of taking those moments of going, I'm really grateful for this opportunity that is absolutely terrifying me, but I am so grateful. I did, I neared 40. We're just being really honest on this call today. I neared 40 and I found myself in really a career shift, a complete career shift. I had built this remarkable, in my opinion, journey and career in sales and marketing. And I was with Utah Jazz in a leadership role and really enjoying what I was doing. And then the shift came and I had an incredible opportunity to work with our executive team. And in doing several different projects, utilizing that sales and marketing background and skill set that I had, one of the things, and Ashley, you'll appreciate this, one of the things that I identified within the organization is we had this incredible desire to grow female leadership. However, we had no parental leave. We didn't have a maternity policy. We had nothing. And being a mom of 4, I thought, well, this isn't going to work. We need to support their needs and their abilities. And so of course, I was given all of the support to build out what potentially could be a new policy for us. And that became what is now. It also shifted into a career in human resources, or what then I rebranded to people and culture. Of course, I felt inadequate. All I had a background in HR was from being an employee for 20 years, but I knew that I believed in relationships. I knew that I could identify problems or opportunities. I knew I could strategically come up with solutions. And I knew I had the abilities and the communication and aptitude to share that strategy and be able to receive the okay, go for it, and implement it. So I knew I believed in my skills. And I think that's what's important when we feel inadequate or when life takes a shift and pivots on us. And you three have been all just shared remarkable stories on doing just that. But I think believing in those skill sets, finding those moments when you need to step back and just be grateful for the opportunity to be challenged and learn and therefore become has been my secret sauce, right? That's how I continue to conquer, because the imposter syndrome is very, very real, very real. And so like being self-aware enough to see those moments too. This is the imposter syndrome speaking. This isn't my lack of ability.
I love that. Thank you, Michelle. I mean, focusing our skills and then just sort of moving forward. What great advice. Margo, do you have an experience that you would like to share with our viewers about how you have done something that got you out of your comfort zone that you were scared to do, and how did you proceed?
I liked what Michelle said. I wrote down, I don't think I've ever totally felt qualified for anything that I've done, but I'm willing to noodle it out and put in the sweat. So as I was listening to you and thinking about that, I thought, I had faith in myself. I had faith in my skills. The first one would be when I quit working for the design company and started my own. My mother was like, "You're 22 years old. Have you lost your mind?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't think I have. I think I can do this." So I didn't know that I was qualified. I sure didn't necessarily think I was, but I was willing to take that leap of faith. I noodled it out and then I put in the sweat.
I love that. That's great. And I can tell that's one of your core values, is this idea of hard work. You mentioned that was established early on in your childhood. And, as future parents, I'm sure many of our students are thinking, what traits can I pass on? And I love that. So thank you for sharing. Paula, do you have an experience that you'd like to share with our audience about how you accomplished something that maybe you were scared to do?
Yeah, so I started out after I graduated from college in public accounting, and I left there after about 9.5 years and took a job that probably was a little bit below my capabilities. But I was nervous about it. I was uncertain about it. But honestly, that company must have recognized something in me that I didn't at the time. And they gave me more work after 3 months, promoted me to a manager after 6 more months, gave me a controller title a year later, and they just kept throwing things at me. And honestly, I didn't have time to sit there and think about the fact that I didn't know what it was they were asking me to do. And so I think what happened is I sort of got used to the idea that I can ask good questions, I can learn enough about something to have good conversations with people. And really what mattered was the ability to manage and lead. And throughout my career, I keep getting things that I knew nothing about, maybe didn't even take school on. I've been, just recently, I just got assigned to be in charge of a group that is all decentralized, bringing it together over right-of-way and land acquisition. Now, I don't know anything about right-of-way and land acquisition, but I'm like, cool, I'm excited about learning something new. So I think that, it just takes you a few times to get used to the idea. And then I think you kind of get with it and you learn from it. And then you're excited about something cool.
That's great. Paula, your attitude is so contagious. I feel like you're saying, yes, I'll just keep doing it. And my company was pushing me forward. So that's so great. Thank you for sharing that. Ashley, can you share with us maybe an experience that you were nervous or scared to do, but you just took the step forward and did it?
Yeah. I feel like I'm living my life there. I remember applying to Utah State thinking, oh my gosh, do I have what it takes to keep up with all these tech savvy, smart young adults? And thinking, well, here I go. I'm going to try to do my best and see if I can keep up. I thought about that exact thing when I was asked to be the president of the SHRM club. Do I have what it takes? But what I've realized in each role that I every time I push myself to try something I'm scared to do, I find that I have the opportunity to learn, that these roles and these opportunities are places to learn and grow. You don't have to be perfect when you step into them. The purpose of them is to learn. It's so you can grow, and we're not alone. I think that's one thing that I've had to overcome, is that we're not isolated in our various roles. We have people we can reach out to and mentors to help guide us on our journey. So that, yeah, we might feel overwhelmed, but we have resources that we can utilize to learn, to understand, to grow. And that for us to be successful in these new roles that we're in, we can be humble enough to ask for that help, and so that we can fill that role better.
Thank you, Ashley. I know that you practice what you're preaching, because I'm lucky enough to be one of your professors in one of your classes right now. And Ashley reaches out with questions and opportunities to keep pushing herself and her skills forward. So thank you for that. I love that advice. All right, we're gonna move to sort of our last question. And we're happy to take any questions from anyone who's viewing who would like to ask some questions. So please put those into the chat, and we'll try to field those towards the end of this conversation. But I want to talk to Margo and Paula and Michelle about advice. You know, a lot of our students are at these pivotal moments, and this semester has been like none other. COVID and asynchronous and synchronous classes have been a challenge for many students as they're juggling all of the many hats that they're wearing. And I'm wondering, what kind of advice would you give to our students who are watching, or maybe watching in the future, on how they can prepare themselves for their future selves? And we'll start with Margo.
Okay. I wrote a few things down that I thought were would have been important for me to do a little bit earlier on. One, learn to be flexible. You hear the analogy about the willow tree, for sure. Be willing to be flexible so you don't break. Pay close attention to anyone who is willing to give you the time to teach you. I think a lot of times at the college years, you think you know a lot more than maybe what you do. And as you get older, you know how much you don't know. So if you'll learn a little more along the way, it will make your time a little easier. And you don't just do this in the classroom. I think you do it every day as you go along. I found with each of the jobs that I had along the way, each of them built on a framework for what I had in the future. I didn't know why I worked at a title company as a 20-year-old, but it gave me knowledge that I needed as I become close to a 60-year-old. I mean, as I've gone through this whole path, there's a lot that I have learned through each one of those silly jobs. You know, I worked at, nobody knows 579 now, clothing store. What did that teach you? Well, I learned from my managers there. I learned from the other sales girls there. Each one of those things built upon it. Find lessons in the many things as you can. Like we talked about the criticism, learn from them. Don't be offended. Just learn each day. Even at almost 60 years old, I try to find learning in everything every day.
That's such great advice, Margo, that it doesn't end, you know, with your time here at USU. It's just probably the beginning, right? And I love that.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you so much. Paula, do you want to share with our viewers sort of your, you know, pro tips?
Yeah. So one of the things I wish I would have learned a little bit earlier in life is how to take better care of myself. So when you're in public accounting, and I think it's that same way today, you work crazy hours, and you want to do what everyone else is doing, right? You want to make sure that you're keeping up. But I literally was the one who had the highest hours in the office, because I thought that was the hard work was the thing. But I burned myself out, and over the years, I've learned a lot of things to do to actively take care of myself. And that makes me a better leader, makes me a better manager of people, makes me be able to sit back and step back and plan and think about the future. So I've had to learn things like meditation, which I use every day. Practicing mindfulness, making sure that I work out and I schedule it to make sure that I'm healthy and taking care of myself and eating well. And I think that if I could go back to 30 years ago and learn some of that then, sometimes I wonder if I'd be in a different place, because I really do feel like I'm more successful and a happier person because I've learned those skills as I went along. So anyway.
Thank you, Paula. That's actually really in line with the question that Madison has. I think she was listening to you, and she was asking, like, what method do you use to slow down and sort of talk yourself out of trying to provide excellence or extra work, all those extra hours? Do you have any strategies to sort of help yourself talk yourself out of that and say, no, I need to create maybe better care for myself? Or do you have any strategies that you could share with me?
Yeah, so I schedule out pretty far. I'm a scheduler, but I schedule the workouts. I block out the lunch off hours or hours, whatever I can do. I schedule when I'm going to leave every day. It's my choice if I come in earlier or leave later. I set times for myself of goals on a new thing to learn. And I actually hired a life coach because I see her maybe once a month, and she teaches me things that I never even thought about, or suggests a book that I should read. And so I think the key is to schedule it and make it important, just as important as getting your work done.
That is such great advice. I feel like I'm going to apply that this week and schedule more time to make it this, that I have the choice, right? That I'm making the choices to come in early or work late or to balance out. And I love your idea of meditation. I feel like that is something I've recently found to be extremely helpful as I try to be empathetic with students and also just sort of what's happening. And I think meditation allows me that space to have that and to do that. So thank you for sharing that great advice. All right, Michelle, what advice would you give to our viewers on how they can prepare for their future now?
Oh boy, their future. Lots of decisions are going to have to be made personally and professionally. And, it's so interesting. COVID hits and the way of life changes so much. And then you find yourself in all of the different roles you're in, whether it's a mom and now needing to figure out how to juggle and teach kids, right? Or as a daughter and having concern and care for your parents and making sure that they're good, and right, or your other family members. And then I find myself too, as an executive over people, with a company that has been so impacted, that industry has been so impacted by COVID. And then we decide through all that we're going to sell the team because it just seems right. Right, Leah? Like, why not? And so there's these endless amount of decisions and the weight that those carry. And I love everything that Paula suggested, because you have to have tools to take care of yourself along the way. You have to understand what it is you personally need to be able to be resilient through all of those different moments that will come in your decision or in your journey, and the decisions that have to be made. A couple of pieces of advice that I would give is build a board of directors. Build a personal board of directors for yourself. Identify people, and they don't have to be just professional. Identify people in your life that you could call and they would lift you, like they push you, right? They may even tell you, you're being a big baby right now and need to like toughen up, or you're being oversensitive, or they'll lift you and they'll say, that person you can call, and they'll just let you know how wonderful you are and everything you've accomplished, right? That they're your pushers and your lifters. But you also need mentors. You also need sponsors that will open doors for you and help make connections for you. You need allies. So build a board of directors for yourself. And that could evolve and change as you continue to go on in life. I also think it's really important to understand, well, I should say it this way. It's really important to all acknowledge that by increasing your understanding in situations in life, I truly believe brings inspiration. that understanding will bring you some inspiration. And we all need inspiration in life. Life is full of the unimaginable. So if we have inspiration to help guide us because we've understood what all of the components are, what all the dynamics are, the moving parts, I think that will really help you identify the pathway or the decisions that you need to make. And then lastly, I would say stay true to yourself. My mom used to always tell me, remember who you are. And if I had to go back to that young adult that left my parents' loving arms, it would be to remember who you are. Be true to myself, to what my values are, and stay strong to those, because those will certainly be challenged along the way too.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. I feel like that the advice of the board of directors and making sure that you're trusting yourself is just so timely, especially just now, as we do need to kind of create our own connections. One idea that I want to ask each one of you, or a thought, is just to bring it a little more personal, is to ask you if you have a free afternoon, nothing on your schedule, absolutely free, how would you spend it? How would you spend your afternoon? So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think about maybe a guilty pleasure or something that you would do in an afternoon. Oh, and Paula wants to go first. Okay.
I'm going on a motorcycle ride. I'm getting on the bike. I'm going in the mountains. It's like the most awesome feeling. You don't have time to think about anything else. So it's a little bit of a form of meditation. There's beauty around me where I go, and I love riding the bike. So that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Margo, I saw your hand. You're excited?
I have lots of things that I like to do in very little free time, but I would play with my grandchildren. I like to quilt. I would go for a hike. If it's winter, I'd like to go skiing, go for a bike ride. Outside is usually my go-to, but I do like to quilt if I've got one going. So all kinds of things. I use every moment.
You are a busy person, so that sounds like
to be busy.
Ashley, what would you do in a free afternoon?
If I had a free afternoon, I'd probably go water skiing with my kids. They're the best, and they can all water ski, which I'm super proud of.
Oh, yes, that's wonderful. Thank you. Michelle, what about a free afternoon for you?
So I'm with all of you. I absolutely love spending time with family, with my children, with friends that are very important to me. I love to hike and be in the mountains like you, Paula. I love that. I love to take drives and just enjoy everything. But one thing that I found through this new normal that we're living in, that was kind of that forgotten art, is I've really enjoyed writing letters to friends and being able to send them a beautiful card. My stepmom is a photographer, and she sent me all of these beautiful images. And so it's inspired me to be able to share notes that I normally probably wouldn't have with friends or neighbors, and just expressing how much I appreciate them, and expressing how much they inspire me and how much I appreciate their support. And it's been so fun not only to just be able to give that way, but to receive back their letters to me, and to be able to kind of just sit and read their words handwritten. And so that's kind of been a new, when I have a free moment, of what I'm enjoying doing, is sitting down in that lost art of writing letters.
That is such great advice. I love that. All of you are such a great, inspiring panel. I feel like we have learned a lot this past hour. I've learned about rubber balls and crystal balls. I've learned about willow trees and sandcastles. I've learned about motorcycle rides and meditation. And I've learned about just getting out of your comfort zone and finding what your values are. Each one of you have just contributed so much to this conversation, and I know that it's valuable to our students here at USU. I want to speak to our audience, and hopefully we've got a few members of WIBA out there. If you haven't gotten a WIBA t-shirt, we've got some really awesome swag that you can, I know, isn't that like fun?
Yes, that's so cute.
Yeah, so be sure and reach out to our president, Bailey Hawes, who has those. And then also something else we're doing from our club is we're going to have a postcard campaign. It's kind of along the lines of Michelle's thought about writing. We're going to write to each other over our extended break. We're not starting back to school until January 19th, so it's extra long. And we want to make sure that we're staying connected as students. And so be looking for some emails about that project, but it's just been such a pleasure to speak with each one of you. And I appreciate your great advice and support here at the Huntsman School.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Thank you, everyone.
All right, we'll say goodbye.